Good. mo-
Kate, I think you froze.
As you do. And we've got KL here with us, and I want to just introduce her briefly. We met through Wendy Wiesman with Ready Set Pivot. And Ready Set Pivot is an organization that exists for women who are pivoting in careers, whatever it might be, from federal to private, from private to nonprofit, nonprofit into, government, whatever it might be. Or maybe you're moving out of a job into being a consultant or opening your own firm. Ready Set Pivot is a great organization, and that's how KL and I met originally, through Wendy. But let me tell you a little bit more about this badass KL right here. Okay, so she is a career co-pilot, and she is a coach who helps people with compensation, and she's a relentless advocate for people who are ready to play on a bigger stage. She started her company, The Salary Bump, with the goal of helping people negotiate the packages they deserve. And she now helps clients negotiate the career pivots, just like I was mentioning, salary increases and exit packages, which before I met KL, I didn't know that existed, that you can negotiate an exit package. I would have been much smarter. Um, your clients regularly get 30 to 50% compensation increases, and every month you've got a spot on a podcast, you've got a TV broadcast. I sent all that information out in the notes ahead of time to our group here. But in your background, you were a chief people officer for 15 years. You sat on the other side of the table crafting those offers and those salary bands. And so you know what you are talking about when it comes to salary. I'm going to pause there. I want to hear from you. Tell us a little bit more about you, KL, what we should know.
Wow, that was a really lovely intro. Thank you. What you should know is, yes, I have sat on that side of the table. So from a credibility standpoint, I know what the person on that side is thinking when it comes to negotiation, when it comes to hard conversations, when it comes to you wanting to exit, you having a difficult boss that you're having a tough time navigating. But what happened was I was in 30 years in corporate sales and marketing for the bulk of my career and then HR. And I saw people struggle in three big areas, and I decided to do something about it. So those three areas were networking. People
Mhm.
struggled, really understanding the importance of it. They don't realize that 80% of jobs are found via your network. And some people just are naturally introverted, perhaps neurodivergent, perhaps just feeling that they feel awkward when they have to put themselves out there. And so we work on that as a really important skill because networking inside and outside of your organization is critical for your promotion, for your next step, for navigating your career. The second thing people struggled with was storytelling. Most of the thousands of interviews that held were snooze fests. Most of them were really, really challenging. You had to pull from the person, and that is not the way to impress the person on the other side. Storytelling in terms of answering the questions in an interview, but also in just the question that everyone starts with, which is tell me about yourself, or tell me what you
Yes.
do, like sitting next to someone on an airplane or a train. People don't know how to articulate their story, who they are, what they love, what they're really good at, how they want to impact the world. People struggle with it. And so the biggest part of what we do before we pass go is to get that story right. Then when you go out to network, it becomes a lot easier. So that was the second thing. And the third thing was negotiation. And I
Mm-hmm.
personally struggled deeply with negotiation. In the very beginning in my early career, I didn't know that I didn't have to prove myself first. So I sold cars to pay for college, and I was paid based
Wait, wait,
on,
wait. You sold cars?
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I did not
yeah,
know this about you. Very
yeah. And I
interesting.
also ride a Harley. You may not know that about me either, but
I didn't know
I'm
that
a
either.
gearhead. I'm a total gearhead. But I spent 20 years in automotive. I'm absolutely obsessed with cars. And when I was selling cars, obviously it was related to commission, you didn't really have a base pay. And so how I performed was the positive result in my bank account. So when I got my first corporate job, I remember getting relocated from Arizona to New York. And I called my dad, and they were relocating me. They were paying for the closing costs on my condo. They were moving me across the country, packing everything, etc. And then they sent me a check for $42,000. I'm in my early 20s. And I called my dad and I said, Dad, like, this can't be right. He's like, no way, that's not right. Like, there's no way that you're giving a 20-something-year-old $42,000 to move across the country. And he goes, you better not cash it. I said, you're right. I better not cash it. And then I'm like, okay, weeks went by. I cashed it. And I thought, well, I'll put it in the bank, but I won't touch it just in case. And I was asking them, is this appropriate? So my association to money at an early stage was a bit more prove it first, maybe a bit of scarcity in not knowing
Mhm.
really that you could ask. And this is not new news. A lot of people don't realize that they can ask. And then once I realized I could, I did, and I failed. And so then I assumed that the myth was correct that women are terrible negotiators because I just assumed because I'm a
Ah,
woman that I'm not good at it. So I didn't try again. And then
yeah.
when I moved into HR is when I saw this bigger picture. I'm like, there's intel here. Most managers, or maybe even some HR teams, the ones that I took over always, they weren't doing proper equity analyses. They were not looking at benchmarking and looking at the equity gaps that exist, and taking action and doing something about it. And so, yeah, it just became this mission. And then as I was interviewing really smart people, generally the ones at a higher level, negotiated really well. I took notes. I then did
Mm.
that for myself throughout my career several times, was able to double my package. And then when I became a coach about 12 years ago and I was a head of HR, people kept coming to me in my private life. I hate my boss. I want out. Can you help me grow? I want to get promoted. I don't know what to do. My kid just graduated college. Can you help me land this deal? Whatever. And it was the most fun I'd ever had. And I said to my husband when I retire, I think I'm going to start this company. And I decided to pull it ahead. And 3 years ago, made this decision to launch the salary bump. And it's been time of my life. And actually, time of my life, of course, but helping put people in the driver's seat of their lives, because people tell
Yeah.
me the work we're doing together isn't just impacting my bank account, it's giving me the confidence and empowering me to be able to have conversations that I might have avoided in the past.
Yeah. That's so powerful, KL. That's what a great story. To hear how this developed for you
Mhm.
and similar path, didn't mean to do this. And then here we are because we found the joy. And then we also had the skill to really put this together, which is no small thing.
You
No
know
small
what?
thing.
It's a
Yeah.
question that I ask every three questions I ask at the very beginning of every client intake. And that is, what do you love? What are you really good at? And how do you want to make an impact on the world? Or are you making an impact? So it's about marrying something that you're innately really good at. I didn't know that I
Mhm.
ended up being great at negotiation. 30 years ago, if you had told me I was going to own a company, I would have been laughed at you like, what, are you crazy? No, I'm not, like, no idea. But what I led always with was I said yes to every opportunity. So in my early career, I had lots of breadth. I didn't have a lot of depth, but I sat in so many roles and I just kept saying yes. I kept showing
Yeah.
up. I kept doing really good work. And I think I'm kind, and I work really hard and I deliver results. And so I think that combination was when people then would always tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, KL, come and join our team. We think you'd be really great. And so, yeah, I always say too, there's only two things you can control, and that's how you show up and how you treat others. And I guess it's kind of a combo. The second one goes into the
Yeah.
first, but
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
so true. And what I'm learning as, in my 50s now, that letting go of the outcome is actually the biggest flex. And
Ooh,
because I spent so
that's
many years,
hard.
oh, Kate, I spent years
Yeah.
worrying about what other people would think, or being so tied to that job or that yes or that sale, or That's been my biggest flex, and I am not looking back. And it's something I teach my clients too, because the job market's bananas, and if you get too
Yeah.
tied to it, then the disappointment is so significant. Or you work for a narcissist, and the fact is these exist, and they make it your problem, your fault. They put you on a pip and you're the problem. There is a grieving process that happens in those processes. And so just getting ahead of it and having the confidence to say, no, no, um,
Mhm.
this isn't,
Mhm.
this isn't how this is going to play out.
Yeah, so helpful, KL. Already, I've got lots of notes here, so thank you. I want to bring in our audience a little bit, because we like to do some Q&A, and we like to also tailor what we're talking about
Yeah.
to the people that put in the time to be here. And we really value that people put in the time to be here. And so I've got some poll questions queued up. I'm going to just start a couple of them here. Let's see. We want to know, growing up, what message did you hear most about asking for what you want? Okay, so if you're out there, you want to answer one of these questions, what did you typically hear about when you were talking about asking for what you want? Um, we've got kind of a 50-50 going here, but the majority is be grateful for what you're given,
Um,
okay? And then other people are saying, I didn't hear much about it. So they didn't hear much about asking, nobody talked about asking for what you want. I make a
yeah.
note of that. Ouch. Yeah. I think my parents were boomers, and I heard a lot about be grateful for what you have.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Okay, making that note. We've got another poll question here just to see what else we've got going on in the crowd. Um,
I think the sad part is that people didn't hear much about it. Um,
yeah.
I think that's mine was the gratitude. Like, just be grateful. Money doesn't grow on trees, Keri-Lynne, and I'm
Right,
like,
right.
yeah, you okay? Yeah, you're right. I better just be grateful. And I'm not saying that gratitude is not important, but um, by doing that, statistically, you're actually leaving between 1 million and 1.5 million on the table by not negotiating over your career.
Yeah. Oh
It's a
my
real
God.
stat. And I don't think people realize. And, even like, I don't think they also realize that we all have a relationship to money, and we all have beliefs around money. And many of those are limiting beliefs. Those are things that hold us
Mm,
back from accomplishing our goals, from
mm,
creating generational wealth, from having the things that we want. My parents didn't teach me a lick about money, not a thing about money. And frankly, they lived paycheck to paycheck, and like, no, we can't afford it this month, but maybe next month. And we were lower middle class, and I they never taught me about retirement. They never taught me about investments. So those are the things that we get to change for our next generations. But
absolutely.
both of those
Yes.
really resonate. Those answers resonated with me.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I'm going to relaunch this question, which is, have you ever walked away from money because you didn't negotiate? So this could be like, they're not going to pay me enough, so it's not going to work. Or, you know what, the benefits aren't what I want them to be, so I'm just going to walk away from this. We've got people saying yes more than once.
I love
So
it.
the
I love
people in
that.
here have walked away. Um, oh, we've got one person replied they usually speak up. But the majority of people here on the call today have walked away because they didn't negotiate.
Well, they might have spoken up first and then they walked away. So I don't know, they probably can't select both. But I think
Yeah.
kudos to you. I think there's probably more to that story, and trusting your instincts, and whether or not that was a values match as well, right? So,
Mm,
depending on how people negotiate, I think there's also, when I thought about negotiation in the early days, that there for me, it was just looking at a courtroom. There was the only negotiation I ever saw was law shows. So there was a winner and a loser.
Yeah.
And it was usually ugly and aggressive. And that's not the kind of negotiations that I create. Everything I do is with a win-win in mind. And so kudos. I think that's beautiful that people walked away if it just didn't feel right.
Yeah. Okay. Next question for everybody out here. When you're thinking about negotiating, how confident do you feel as you negotiate? All right. Terrified. We've got some terrified people, and some people, it's situational. They feel confident. So no one in here is like really confident. They've got situational confidence, or they're terrified of negotiating. Do you find that
Yeah.
that's pretty common? Like situationally,
Very.
I'm pretty good. Yeah.
Very. What I will say, if you're thinking about it in the context of a new job and you're negotiating the pay component of it, just know this: the person on the other side is 100% expecting you to negotiate. So know that. And
Mm.
87% of the time, the answer is yes. Another
Whoa.
stat that may alarm you. These are stats that come from Fortune, so they're real. 87% of the time, the answer is yes. Maybe it's not everything that you ask for. And the other factor that I think people don't understand is if the answer is no on the salary, let's say base salary, most people don't think beyond salary or salary bonus and maybe equity. They don't
Mhm.
realize that there's a plethora of other things that you can negotiate. I'm going to give you a great example. I worked with an automotive technician. So I work with CEOs to automotive technicians, and this is an hourly worker, which was so much fun. He got his master certification, which is a very elite thing as a technician. And so the dealership group that he worked for does not want to lose a master tech. They paid for him to
Yeah.
get his master tech, but we're at will. He could have left if he wanted to at any time. But he said, Kale, I love this group. I want to have my career here, but I want more money. Okay, great. So the whatever he was making an hour, I don't remember off the top of my head. Let's say it was $30 an hour. We were putting together the entire package to get him closer to what he wanted. We ended up getting him a 40% increase and only a few more dollars per hour, because you have to think about it like this. The things you're negotiating usually are pre-tax. So you're taxed on
Mm.
every dollar that you get, whether it be, in his case, it was salary. We co-created a bonus and we got equity in the company. But what we added on, which most people don't think about, is we got him a company car, gas, and insurance, which was a $1,700 a month good guy back in his pocket. Those are real dollars back in his pocket. And
Whoa.
negotiated him and his wife's health care. So with another $1,000 a month. So $2,700 a month we put back in his pocket. That is huge, 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 huge. So people don't think about all the other factors. You belong to
Wow.
communities, you belong to chief, you belong to RSP, you belong to these different alliances, communities, they can pay for those. What about professional development? What about MBAs, depending on where you are in your career, if that's important to you? What about professional coaching, exec coaching? We always negotiate coaching as part of our packages. And what about
Mhm.
severance? In this market, you should be incorporating severance into your new contract, because I can tell you multiple clients that I have who I've placed have already come back to me and circled back through because they were either let go or there was a restructuring. Especially early mid-stage startups, you have to protect yourself. So those things most people just don't think about, and they are
Mm.
worth real dollars. And I'm going to give you a last one. In every single role I've ever had, and every thousands of offers I've made, not one person, not one, has ever asked me for the breakdown of the healthcare benefits in the negotiation. I always send them, but they come usually after. Not
Mhm.
one person ever negotiated that because, not because the reason why is people don't want to negotiate, but think about it from this perspective. When I went into one organization, I was really strategic on benefits. Benefits are super important in this market, in the US at least. A lot of my clients are also global, but in our market, you could get a 20% raise and throw that all away because the benefits costs are out of control because they don't
Mhm.
have a good benefit strategy. Benefits are massive
Mhm.
for companies, like huge, huge cost. I created a really incredible fertility benefit at one of the companies that I worked with. And one woman said to me, Kale, this is the reason I stay here because I am going through this right now and I'm not even thinking about another company at least until I go through this because it's $200,000 out of pocket for me. So you need to
Yeah.
know where you
Yeah.
are in your stage of life and what are the values that you have. Maybe you're working for a company that offers like specific special care for caretakers or elder care, and you're at that stage of life where you're caring for elderly parents, or like, there's paternity leaves and a greater maternity leave. Like there's so many factors that people just aren't asking the questions. Use
Mhm.
it as a dialogue and don't forget about all the other levers. And I'm going to say one last thing where people usually get stuck is in the very beginning when you are asked, what are your salary expectations? I hate the question. The question is such a dumb question because, first of all, a package is much greater than just the salary. So if I tell you 200,000,
Mhm.
I'm backing myself into a corner, number one, but I can't answer that question without knowing the bigger picture. Well, do
Yeah.
you have a bonus structure? Do you have equity? It's the total comp picture that is at least those three factors. So don't answer that question when you are asked it. First of all, before you walk into any of those conversations, you should have done your homework. There is a tool on ChatGPT called Salary Navigator. Grab
Ooh.
it and feed it as much information as possible from your resume to your old salary to the new opportunity, job description, to as much data on that company as possible, to as much data on your current company as possible, to feed it information and ask you to bring back, ask it to give you back ranges and total comp picture for a role at this level in the market. It at
Mhm.
least gives you a baseline. And so if you're backed into a corner and have to answer the question, you at least have a range you can talk about. Never give a
Mhm.
number,
Mhm.
always give a range. And instead of answering the question, I would ask, it would be helpful if you could help me understand what the budgeted range is for the role. Given the fact that we're talking about something greater than salary, talk to me about
Mhm.
your total comp picture and let's go from
Mhm.
there.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Love
then
that.
you can go back. And so also consider this when it comes to ranges, Salary Navigator is going to give you a whole bunch of different ones, right?
Mhm.
The low end of the number that you give should be the number that you would be happy to walk away with in the event that is the number that they get stuck on. The high
Mhm.
end of the range should be the number you would be over the moon with. And the goal is I want to get you to the mid to high end of that range. And then keep in mind, make sure you give a wide enough range to play. So don't give 200 to 215. If
Okay.
200 is the number that you'd be happy with, and that, is sort of a mid the range that Salary Navigator gives you, go up to 275, go up to 300, give it enough play and enough room.
Mhm.
But again, talk total comp package.
Mhm. Mhm. I love this. Oh my God. Okay. I was going to do more poll questions, but I see there are questions coming in the chat because KL is dropping the nuggets here. Let's see.
Oh.
Lourdes or Amory, do you see any of the questions coming in?
I see one that's super interesting around quiet hiring. Employers are
Yeah.
adding tasks without adding compensation. And what they're also
Oh.
doing is they're adding, so let's say they lay someone off. Guess what? You get to take their job too. You're welcome. Yes. And so that's the second part of the question, not backfilling a position and those tasks get added to your role. So it is a very bananas market. So I do think that there is a strategic way to play this. Number one, hopefully that means that you're doing a great job and that they want to, this is maybe a growth opportunity. If it is, they just dump it on you. That's a different story. But let's use the optimistic thing because I'm an optimist. Um, I always looked at it as this is an opportunity for me to learn and grow. But let's have a conversation about how my actual role changes, how my job
Mhm.
description changes, and how my targets now change. Because the most important thing for you is that you know what is expected of you at the end of the year, that you are prepared on your performance review, that they don't slam something on there that you had not agreed to. So before I say yes to this, I want to get clear how this helps me grow.
Mhm.
How does my title now change? And let's talk about the compensation.
Yeah.
You may get pushback on the compensation and the title, and you say, okay, fair enough. In 6 months, let's review this conversation because I do think it's appropriate that we land on a different conversation. But if you let me show you in 6 months, but let's change the title now. That
Mhm.
costs you nothing to change the title.
Yeah.
You want to be in the driver's seat of that conversation and not just say yes, but also not be like not take it as an opportunity. Like look at it
Right.
as an opportunity. If they're rude about it, if there's anything about it that feels off, okay, this is a different conversation. Um, but what's in it for me? And I see
Mhm.
everything as a growth opportunity. So let's talk about my growth, both professionally and financially, and then have that conversation.
Mhm.
That just puts you in the driver's seat. You are, again, you could say, okay, listen, this is huge. This is something I've never done before, this task. I'd really like to consider some professional development around it and some training. So I found a couple of courses for the company to sponsor so that I can get educated on it and then get so uber clear on your success, what success looks like, that it has to be in writing because they'll come around at the end of the year potentially and slap something on you that you had no
Yeah.
idea. So you have to be in the driver's seat of that. Do not expect that they are going to do it because they're flailing and they're just trying to figure out how to get the job done. Don't put yourself in
Mhm.
that position.
Mhm. Hey, Al, we get a lot of clients over here at Get Her Hired when they've come up against that happening. So there'll be layoffs within an organization, and all of a sudden you're doing the job of three people.
Yeah.
I like how our caller here said it's quiet hiring. So you've just hired me for three jobs, but haven't told me you hired me for three jobs. Um, and it really burns people out. And here's what I would say, like all the having those conversations, there are organizations and managers within organizations who will not be flexible. And that is your sign that that's probably not the organization to hitch your wagon to for a long time. So
Yes.
that's typically then we're getting the calls over here at Get Her Hired, like, okay, I'm still working, but this is a mess, not negotiate with me and I need to get out. And we're like rolling
Yeah.
up the sleeves. We're ready to go because that it does happen. Yeah.
Yeah, it may also be that it's before I immediately say I'm out. I think there's, some values questions. I'll tell you, many years
Yeah. Yeah.
ago, this happened actually to my husband. They, like a very high level manager, they decided to blend two roles, get rid of someone and give him two very key roles. Like we are blending your job description. You were taking both of these responsibilities. And oh, by the way, we're saving the salary on that person. So he
Mhm.
went to negotiate. I coached him on the negotiation and they literally gave him $0, $0. The frustration level has never left him. He's not left the
Mhm.
organization, but that ignorance and lack of consideration of like, this isn't just adding a few new responsibilities. You
Yeah.
say like it was tough, but there's also probably people in the organization that you can talk to. Like you can talk to HR. If you don't have a partnership with HR, you should know your HR business partner because they can advocate for you. I know some HR gets a bad
That's true.
reputation, and I'm so sorry about it. I've heard it, I've seen it. That is not the HR that I created. I took great pride in being an advocate for our people. I was in the business meetings all of the business meetings. We were not back office HR advocating for people at every single moment at every table. If you don't have that, most people in HR are in HR because they empathy is one of their skills. So build a relationship. Like they're lonely there. They can't talk to other people. Like that's a lonely job. Like just get to know them and say, hey, like I want to keep building my career here. I'd love your opinion. Talk to me about other areas. They know the jobs that are open
Mhm.
before you do, before they're posted.
Yes, they
They
do.
know. So you talk to them about you. Tell them your story, where you want to go, how you want to grow. And HR can advocate for you as well. Say, listen, my boss has put on significant new responsibilities. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of interest to change the pay or the title. I'd love to talk about how you would tackle this. I don't, you're not coming reporting the boss, but how do you suggest I move forward? I'd love to get your opinion, or even other people in the organization that you trust, your mentors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before you write
Yeah.
them off completely.
Yeah. Thank you, Kale. That's a great point because we can get very frustrated very quickly. And I know myself, I like to just flip the desk and walk out of the organization like, disrespect me, I'll show you some disrespect.
Yeah. That's okay too
But
sometimes, Kate. That's okay too, but being really thoughtful. One of the tools as a coach that I teach is learning how to respond versus react.
yes,
Because when
yes,
I'm
yes.
reacting, I'm coming from a place of fear, frustration, anger, whatever. I have a negative emotion when I'm reacting. What I want to understand is what is being triggered in me. Are you saying that I'm not worthy because you're not giving me that? I'm not enough. I'm not good
Mhm.
enough. I'm good enough to take on the role, but I'm not good enough to get the title. Well, what about this schlep over here who's getting it? Be really thoughtful about what's coming up for you and your own triggers. Or most of us, we get triggered around we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not pretty enough, we're not enough, we're not worthy. We all have these triggers, but
Yeah,
understanding it and saying, okay, let me remove that trigger for a moment. And how might I respond, or how do I want to respond in this situation that is not based on fear and anger and frustration,
yeah,
but coming
yes,
at it from a giving place and coming at it from a place of, okay, how might this serve me? How do I now want to communicate with my leadership? If I come in guns a-blazing, will I get more with honey than I will with vinegar? So I think it's just sort of also knowing yourself and like, what are the patterns that I've thrown the desk up in the past? Did that work for me?
yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah,
was I
yeah.
proud of that? And maybe there's a moment for me to just take a pause.
Yeah. Well, this gets so emotional because so many great, capable, competent women love their jobs. They put a lot of themselves into it. And so there is that values, like my personal
Yeah.
worth tied up in how I show up at work and how people view me at work.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult for people when they get riffed, if they haven't. So I kind of want to go back to this is so good. And please, everyone, you can use the Q&A
Oh, darn. You froze on us,
function. We
Kate.
did have a
Oh, you're
question come
back.
in the Q&A, and I'll have Anne Marie, if you could read that out in chat. Yeah. And um, the if you've got salary questions, if you've got negotiation questions, because KL is here, will answer all your dumb questions, okay? Because this is anonymous.
They're all
Will you read out the
they're
Q?
all really important questions too.
Yeah.
This is absolutely your time and place to ask them. And I meet about 20 to 25 new people a week, and I take coffee chats, no cost, that if you ever want to get on a call and just spitball with me, I am very happy to do that. I think it's important. I mean, obviously, clients hire me to be their advocate, to sit next to them in the car, to help them hold themselves accountable, et cetera. But you don't have to be a client to jump on a call with me. So that's also something I just wanted to note.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Emery, did you get that Q&A?
Yes. So this comes from someone who's generally in an EA role, executive assistant. Most companies won't even look at their resume without a solid salary number. How do you answer that question to get to the next steps in the interview process,
Mm.
especially in
Yeah.
a role that's notoriously undervalued and underpaid?
So a lot of the ATS systems, when you apply for a role, it asks you for for the salary expectations. Another very frustrating thing, in my opinion. But remember the statistic I dropped earlier that 80% of jobs are found via your network. And I think the stat is 75% of exec jobs are filled before they're even posted. They never get posted. I say that because your energy should always be spent on networking versus going through those crappy systems that only 20% of jobs are found anyway. The system is antiquated. The system does not see your resume. And if you put a salary number in there that, again, it locks you in. Who knows if it's too high or it's too low? Depending on the state that you're in, I don't know how many states now, 25, 26 states require pay transparency. So when they post the job, it should show a range. So you can put in a number that makes you feel good and comfortable. Um, it's just, I don't know that that's where I would be putting my energy. So I don't have a trick of the system. I don't have a slick way for you to avoid putting that number out there. I think as long as you've done your homework and you know what you are worth, what
Mhm.
your role has been worth, and where you want to be and where you see yourself, it's more about how you're positioning yourself, right? EAs are the backbone of that leader that you support. You are the eyes, the ears, the nose. You are everything for that. And you are a strategy partner for that leader. It is a really crucial role. So it's more, I think, about how do you position yourself in the interview. Salary is the last part of the conversation. They shouldn't actually care about that. They should care about what are you going to deliver and the impact that you are going to help me make. Then we can talk salary. And if they're
Mhm.
only leading with salary, they might not be your people. Um,
Mhm.
I hope that helps. I'm sorry, it's not a flip of a switch. It's really something that I would just get out there and start networking, and build your LinkedIn personal brand. If you are not sharing thought leadership on LinkedIn or commenting on other people's stuff, having an about page that is about you, not about the company you work for, about your special gifts, you're really missing a massive opportunity to have people find you and to put yourself on the map.
Thank you so much, KL. That's so helpful. It's for everyone great to remember. And the stat you shared that 80% of roles are found through networking, which yes, we see that too. But the other stat you shared that is 100% of people expect you to negotiate, and
Yeah.
87% of the time the answer is yes, right? So you may get into
87%, almost 90.
And so, yeah, you can have that number there that you talk about earlier in the process, but like as we now know from you, KL, that doesn't mean that that's the number. Yeah.
Exactly. And someone else wrote here that they responded to a recruiter and it was with, can we focus on the total comp package as opposed to sharing? So first of all, they shouldn't be asking you your last salary and you never want to give it anyway. I
Mhm.
think that's just wrong. The recruiter responded with, we need a number. So you never want to give a number, but you can always talk in ranges. If you get backed into a corner and you have to answer, do your homework, make sure you know. And as I said, talk in ranges, you know, go through the interview process and see if they're your people. What people don't realize is they are interviewing the company as much as the company's interviewing them. You should have a list of questions. You should have your values, the things you care about, because this is way too important. If you have a values mismatch, you will be miserable. And we've all been in situations, I've been in situations where it was a total values mismatch. And I walked away. And that's okay. You can do that. And if it's a values mismatch, you're either going to walk away or they're going to walk you away. Be conscious of that in the interview process. I know the market is very, very challenging. And I know that people need jobs, but please don't settle. Please don't settle for
Mhm.
a paycheck. And if you do, I do have clients that have said yes with massive red flags. No, it was a lot of red flags, and you are going to continue your search.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you have to, then one woman, she was CMO, they actually changed the role title on her throughout the interview process. They pulled it down to a VP level. Really big red flag. And everything she was talking about was her strategy, and they just wanted a doer. And I'm like, her name's
Ah,
Kate. I'm like,
okay.
Kate, this is like a lot of red flags. Are you sure? And she's like, I had 2 kids in private school. I am the breadwinner. Kale, I have to take this job. And then I work with her to help her navigate. And when she's ready to exit, if in fact, that's the direction, then we'll
Yeah.
get her out of there, but make your decisions consciously.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Anne-Marie, we had a couple more questions come in through the Q&A. Can you pop one out for us here?
Yes. What
Mhm.
is your perspective in someone who's going through career progression when it comes down to a higher title versus a higher salary if they're not able to get both?
Mm.
Well, first of all, I would always
As a
want to,
resume writer, I have an opinion.
yeah, you go first. You go first.
I say title because the title elevates you, and you can get that title where you are, and you can go and negotiate salary later. But I once had a president of the organization I was working with tell me, "Oh, titles don't really matter." And I accepted that note from him, and it probably cost me $1 million across my
Yep.
career,
Yeah.
So I would say title, but
Well, I
Cal,
don't
what do you
think
think?
you have to choose. I think it would be it's an interesting one that they would like if you want the title, we're not giving you the money. That's a little shtick. That's a it's a I don't know that I've never heard that happen, but I think it also depends on how much we're talking about from a financial perspective. So it's a bit of a tough question to ask because I always want both. And I would want to understand why not both. The title costs you nothing in essence, but the title puts you in another category. So think about benchmarking. If their max benchmark is we can't go over 200,000 because director level, that's the max of the band. The only way for you to get more is to get the VP title. So if that is the case, I would say I'll take the title now, and in 6 months, when I prove it, we do a review of my compensation because I want to know where does this salary fall in the benchmark of other vice presidents. So, um, you always want to be curious and ask those questions, but I wouldn't settle for just one or the other. I'd be like, okay, so talk to me about what people at that level
Mhm,
are making and
mhm.
how this offer, where does this offer put me in that band? Because it might be true that they've got you at the max. That's when you then go and you talk about all the other things. Well, how can we close the gap? I just helped a woman, big pharma, get a $500,000 sign-on bonus.
What?
She was leaving, and I helped a colleague of hers get 300. And so they've been referring me like crazy to their colleagues from this company. They're leaving pension on the table. They're leaving equity on the table.
Oh,
So
yes.
if you are currently employed and you are getting an offer, you want to talk about what you're leaving on the table, even if you're not leaving it a lot on the table. Like you want to talk about what you're leaving and how do we close that gap? So if they can't meet you where you want to be met in salary and bonus, and you've pushed as far as you can with that, say, look, there's still a gap of 100,000. How do we make up that gap? We've got equity. We've got sign-on bonus. We've got car insurance, gas. I've never had a car payment in my whole career, even when I left automotive.
Oh,
Never.
wow.
That's a
Amazing.
that's a lot of money, your car and your insurance. Yes, it's a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
money. In some cases, we're negotiating airplanes, depends on the level. We're negotiating for CEOs, right? So you have the
Have the
ability to negotiate all of the above. and close that gap with a sign-on bonus for sure, or coaching or MBA, whatever else you want.
Love that. I love that. We have a question that came in the chat.
Mhm.
And we've got one more question in the chat. We have one about what's the worst that happens?
Yeah.
That particular question. Can you read that out loud, KL? My internet's going a
Yeah.
little
What's the
funny.
worst that happens if asked, what are your salary expectations? You give a range that's too high, and it's scary to imagine what the other person is thinking. So what are they thinking, and do they think you're crazy? No, they definitely do not. And if you happen to be in a state where they have to, when the job is posted, they give a range. If you happen to be working with a recruiter, you get a little bit of intel. What I would always say is, listen, based on where I am, based on the jobs that I'm interviewing for now, and based on the market data that I have, roles at this level range from boom to boom. How does that fit in with your comp structure? And understand, when I give you this range, it's only the salary component. Some companies I'm talking with are higher salary, lower on equity. Some are lower on salary, higher on equity. I love to talk more in that total comp picture, because not every company is set up the same way. So talk to me about your comp philosophy here inside the organization. That is how I would answer that. So it doesn't then put you in a, am I too high? And then you're in a bit of a panic. Have a dialogue around it. Really create more of a holistic conversation, and that should help you.
Thank you, KL. I love that. That's such a good repositioning. We've got a final question in the Q&A. Anne Marie, could you read that one out loud for us?
Yes. So this person said they understand that networking is key, but what if you're in an industry where networking may open you up to the company you currently work for, finding out that you're looking?
Okay, so first of all, networking does not mean I'm looking for a job. Networking means I am connecting with other amazing people. I might be able to help them. They might be able to help me in my career, new job, new connection. Look at networking as, I want to connect with amazing people that are doing really great work. That's not why you're networking. Of course, the end result is that the next day they could introduce you to someone that changes your life, but it could be in 5 years they introduce you to someone that changes your life, or you introduce them to someone that changes their life. So networking is about creating this incredible web of people that you can pull each other in when needed. Like, I'm looking to expand my network of brilliant minds that are doing really great work. I'm really excited about building a greater community. I've been heads down, hustling, and I realize I need to pick my head up and create a bigger community around me. Talk to me about what you're up to. Talk to me about what's lighting you up today. That is what networking is. And then naturally, as that conversation happens, you can say, yeah, I'm considering what might be next, whether that be growth inside my organization to director level, or I'm having just such interesting conversations learning about other companies. Tell me about your company. I'll tell you about mine. Never bash your company, never bash old companies. Be really thoughtful about that. Positioning is more strategic in building a network. It also means you have to foster and nurture that network. And how do you do that? You touch base with them once in a while. You send them a note on LinkedIn and say, I was just thinking of you. You follow what they're posting and you comment on their pages. You highlight their bell. You ring their bells to see every post that they make, not just the ones LinkedIn pushes to you. Don't underestimate. They see you. They see that you're engaging and you're commenting, even if you just heart something. That will show that you are out there, that you are putting yourself out there. And that will go a long way.
Yeah.
Actually, on November 11th, a dear friend and I are doing a LinkedIn Live that is all about building your network. I will be announcing it on my page, so please follow me. If you highlight my bell to see all of my posts, I do offer a lot of great value in my posts. I post every
You
day.
do.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. So, watch for that because there's going to be some incredible nuggets. This woman has created the most beautiful network I have ever seen. She has never had to pipeline. She's a business strategist. She's never had to pipeline. She has never had to go find a deal. Every deal has come to her. Similar for me, 70% of my work is referral or previous clients coming back, and that number is growing every day. So, network, there is an art and a science to it, and we are going to talk everything about how you can do it, create it, foster, and nurture it.
Oh, I love that, KL. It looks like Anne-Marie just shared a link to your
Oh,
LinkedIn.
thanks,
So
Emery.
on the call here or on the recording, please follow KL out on LinkedIn. She's got such amazing content. And you tell us about other places we can find you because you've got your TV show, you've got, your podcasting. Tell us where are other places we can find you.
Oh my gosh, that is the funniest thing. So, I wanted to dip my toe into podcasting since I launched the company. And I don't know why I was blocked by it. And then I met this amazing woman. Her name is Dr. Rosie Ward. She has a podcast called Show Up as a Leader. And she's like, Kale, I'd love for you to be one of my pillars. She has a couple of other women who come on once a month with their own show, talk about whatever they want to talk about. And so I said yes. One episode a month. I'm going to dip my toe in and see if I like it. And she really wanted me to show up alone as opposed to interviewing other people. And that didn't feel right to me. So I actually interviewed my daughter in one episode. She graduated college this year, and I wanted her to share with her generation how she landed 4 job opportunities. Her mom happens to be a career roadie and a career strategist, but she did it most of it on her own. I'm blown away by it. So I interviewed her, and then the next episode she interviewed me. So it was the only one that I didn't do solo. And I just didn't feel that it was right for me. So I actually said September was my last episode.
Oh, okay,
And
okay.
so it wasn't a
Yeah,
hell yeah, which meant it was a no. And I'm so
yeah.
happy about it. But I was on a TV show called Job Hunt New York as a guest. And the woman who was the broadcaster or the host, her name is Carrie Barrett. And she teaches lawyers how to show up on video. And so Job Hunt New York really wasn't a match for her in terms of the business that she was creating. And I did an episode with them, and the producer called me after and said, "Do you want to host?" I'm like, she's Emmy award winning. What are you talking about? But of course, KL says yes to everything. Learning to also be really thoughtful about what I say yes to. But I said yes, and it was so hard at first and so awkward, but I'm having a blast with it. And it's for, yeah, just helping job seekers. And it's not just about finding a job. I had a nutritionist and a health coach on. His episode launches on Saturday. And it's just a small show, but it's really powerful, and it's a hell yeah for me. I'm
Yeah,
having a
that's
blast
great.
on it. Yeah.
That's
So
great.
besides the
And
show, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, Anne-Marie, if you can drop the link for KL's TV show and then for her website, because we need to
Oh, thank
be
you.
cue people in there. Anne-Marie, if you can do that in the chat. Thank you.
I
Yeah.
also have I built a digital program, and what's kind of interesting is I thought the digital program would be something that more people would gravitate to because it was accessible from a pricing standpoint, and working with me one-on-one is more of an investment, a very worthy investment, but not everybody is at that stage. And so I thought this is going to be really helpful. And it hasn't taken legs. But I do have this really beautiful, very comprehensive program. It's $197. Kate, we could talk about a 20% code for
Yeah.
your group if you'd like.
Yeah, we
I
should
can
do that.
create it. When you send an email and send this recording out, I'd be very happy to offer a special discount code for you. So just tell me that, like, I'll just use, yeah, Wade 20 or something, and I'll go in behind the scenes and create it. So if anybody wants to access it, it's beautiful. And it's all videos from me, and it's super comprehensive. So there's that. What else am I working on? I'm actually thinking about, well, my new show with my friend Ricky on November 11th. We are starting a
Yeah.
podcast, something along the lines of like, stop doing life alone. Like, you don't have to do this alone. And why would you want to? And like, it's so much more fun and so much more helpful to have a roadie next to you, a partner next to you, someone who's going to tell you like it is, help you hold the mirror up, hold you accountable, give you the spinach in your teeth, but also really hold your hand in this process. And so it's going to be like every conversation that her and I have, she's my best friend. We're squirrels. And so you're going to get some behind the scenes access of everything from, career strategy to vaginal health. Who knows? We're going to probably cover every topic because that's what we do as besties. And
Yeah.
we're really excited about that. So that's coming. And I think there's a community in me. I think there is something really about bringing people together and helping them find their way and helping each other build community. So
Mhm.
we'll see what that is. And there's some really interesting AI coach bots that could be in my voice. That might be part of it. So yeah, I'm cooking up a few things, but just staying in flow.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that, KL. Always looking to see how else you can help people and be their roadie, meeting
Yeah.
them on the road wherever they are in
Yeah.
that journey. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so, so much, KL, for us today. If you've got one piece of advice for everyone about how can they show up better in their negotiations, or how can they own the room a little bit better, own their story of what they want in their career better, what would that piece of advice be?
Oh, I think I dropped so many nuggets today.
Yes, you did. I've got
Um,
a couple pages to prove.
Ah, let's say, let me rephrase the question and answer it this way. I ask this question
Yeah.
at the end of every episode of Job Hunt New York. If you were on the job market right now, what's the first thing you would do? Network. Network, network, network. Second thing I would do is build my LinkedIn profile that tells my story. And so I would ask myself those three questions. What do you love? What are you really good at? I mean, love, light your fire, love. Really good at. I mean, hands tied behind your back, eyes closed, like innately good at. And how do you want to impact the world? I asked myself those questions and created the salary bump as a result of that. It keeps evolving with the career bump and the exit bump. We didn't even talk about exits. I help
Oh my
people
gosh.
exit situations.
Yeah,
And
we
I've
didn't
helped a
get to that.
couple of women get in the millions. So my most successful one was 2.3 million, just closed one with a woman. These were longer tenured and higher level. So, but people find me on YouTube and, 3 days later, we get them a package for 12 weeks,
Yeah.
get them out of tough situations. So the bumps keep bumping and they keep evolving. And the last thing I'm going to say, I hired myself 4 coaches last year. I went all in on me. I held the mirror up. My baby was ugly. I was blaming my husband for a lot of things. I was in full-blown menopause, hired a menopause coach, hired a regular coach, hired a business coach, and hired a trauma coach. So
Mm.
20 years ago, my husband was killed in a car accident, and the trauma from
Oh,
that experience never left my body. And blocked my throat chakra, blocked my so many things anyway. She did 3 trauma pulls on me and it was like literally life-changing.
oh,
I
Keri.
just
Wow.
hustled through it. I just plowed through it like I did everything else in my life at that time. And I went all in on me and my career catapulted, but I didn't really grieve and go through the process. And so the process of navigating something so difficult, those 4 investments that I made were the best investments of my life. I would do it again. I will continue to do it again. I still have my business coach and my hormone coach, still navigating every 6 months, looking at what's happening in my body. But if something feels off, don't underestimate, and there's no one who's going to fix it for you but you. And you can find partners to do it, but you are your best investment. That's my
Yeah.
biggest piece of advice.
Thank you, KL. Oh, what a great line to end with. You are your best investment. 100%. I couldn't agree harder on that one. That is so wonderful.
It's from my
KL,
heart
thank
too,
you.
Kate.
Thank you for
This is
sharing
like
that.
life is life has ups and downs, and I really believe and I've learned that, you know what? everything happens in our life for us, not to us. And the moment we shift out of victim mode and blame others and like it's everyone else's fault, it's a game changer. It's a real game changer. And I'm not saying it's easy, but it's worth it.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, KL. It looks like Kate's screen froze again, but thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Have a great week, and
Yes.
we'll get the recording out to you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.